Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Ba'yishim, Barakah Kodash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Ba'yishim, Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who ruled and teach well. In peace and salutations to your Ahchyam out there pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off with Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them, you Israelites that have the knowledge of this truth. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, you 2/3 and these other heathen nations, for the devil, Esau, Edom, more specifically the elites, is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And this devil is coming down in great wrath, Ahchyam. Just this Tuesday, you had that shooting, and now it's come out that the shooter was a so-called black Hebrew Israelite, which, as we always have to continue to say, we're not black, and this is not a color thing. It's by the spirit and the lineage and by your father, because the 12 tribes consist of so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as the Israelite foreigners who will come looking like every nation under the sun, even Edomites or so-called white people. But I'll be profiling this article on the New York Times. Jersey City shooting, suspect linked to black Hebrew Israelite group. The devil has come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. The powers that be know that their time's almost up. They can see Israelites are waking up in mass numbers, and that this word's getting preached to the four corners of the earth. And as it says in Matthew 24, this testimony shall be a witness before all nations and all ends of the earth, and then shall the end come, the end of the rulership of the heathens, chiefly Esau, Edom. So these elites are scrambling together their plans for a new world order to get this word off the internet and to get the men of the Lord off the highways and byways and persecute Israel in general to try to kill us off and keep this truth from going out and keep his judgment from coming to pass. But it's all too late. The Most High has you in a trick bag, and you elites can't escape. But for you sincere Ahchyam out there, the persecution is about to heat up very quickly upon us. So you should have been spending this time drinking from these rivers of living waters while you still can, because they're about to be cut off, and then they're about to come after you, and you're going to need that faith in Yahweh Ba'yishim Yahushai to save you from these coming times of Jacob's trouble, because there's going to be no other way out. Let's get back into this article. The black Hebrew Israelites have been labeled a hate group. The suspect wrote anti-Semitic and anti-police posts, an official said, and that plays perfectly into the black nationalist definition on the SPLC's black nationalist group list. This is from their website, splccenter.org. The black nationalist movement is a reaction to centuries of institutionalized Edomite supremacy in America. So-called black nationalists believe the answer to Edomite racism is to form separate institutions or even a separate nation for so-called black people. Most forms of so-called black nationalism are strongly anti-Edomite and anti-Semitic. What did they say old boy wrote in his manifesto? Anti-Semitism. And then when we jump down to here, not only does it say black nationalists are anti-Semitic and anti-so-called white, but they're also, as we'll read right here in the What's Ahead section, so-called black nationalist groups will likely continue to expand, coordinate, recruit, and unify against what they perceive as their common enemies: Jews, anti-Semitism, Edomites, and the police, anti-police rhetoric. This is 2 Corinthians 2, verse 11. Lest Satan, the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, you Edomites, should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. We can see Esau's agenda a mile away, and we're not ignorant of your devices. We knew you were going to do this from the jump off, and we know that we must go through persecution, but afterwards, if we endure until the end, like good soldiers of Yahushai HaMashiach, Yahweh willing, we'll be of that elect number and get beamed up on that chariot and saved from this coming destruction. And as we'll see in this article, everything just falls too conveniently into place to label the Hebrew Israelites as black nationalists. This guy fits all those little bullet points in that SPLC Center's black nationalist group list. Investigators are examining links to the Black Hebrew Israelite movement. An assailant involved in the prolonged firefight in Jersey City, New Jersey, that left 6 people dead, including 1 police officer. Anti-police rhetoric was linked on Wednesday to the Black Hebrew Israelite movement and had published anti-Semitic posts online, a law enforcement official said. And isn't it convenient that this shooting happened right after YouTube enacted those new policies? Again, we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. Over these next couple of days, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But heat is definitely going to come onto the truth to where it'll be a perfect excuse for YouTube to say, look, we finally need to combat this hate. These so-called Black Hebrew Israelites are out here shooting people. Take all their videos off the internet. And you could even go to these other platforms. You could have Daily Motion or Photo Bucket say the same thing. Look, we don't want to be a part of an agenda that spreads hate. So we're going to follow YouTube's lead and cut the videos as well. The violent rampage on Tuesday took place largely at a kosher supermarket where 3 bystanders were killed. The authorities now believe that the store was specifically targeted by the assailants, whom they identified as David N. Anderson, 47 years old, and Francine Graham, 50 years old. Mr. Anderson appeared to have a connection to the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, though the extent of his involvement in that group remains unclear, law enforcement officials said. The Black Hebrew Israelites, which has no connection with mainstream Judaism, has been described as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, a legal advocacy group that tracks such movements. The authorities also suspected that the 2 assailants may have been involved in a separate killing in neighboring Bayonne, New Jersey, according to New Jersey's Attorney General Gerber S. Gruel. Among those killed on Tuesday were 3 bystanders who were inside the store when the shootout began. They have been identified as Mendel Ferencz, who ran the market with her husband, Moshe Deutsch, a rabbinical student who lives in Brooklyn, and Miguel Douglas, who may have worked at the store. 1 other person inside the store was wounded but managed to escape, according to Gruel. The Jersey City police officer who was killed was identified on Tuesday as Detective Joe Seals, a 15-year law enforcement veteran and a father of 5. So it was so-called Jewish people and a cop that was killed, playing perfectly into this agenda. An assailant had links to the Black Hebrew Israelites. Investigators also found a manifesto-style note inside the assailant's van. The law enforcement official and another official familiar with the case said the document, which was described as brief and rambling, suggested no clear motive for the shooting. Investigators also found a live pipe bomb inside the vehicle, officials said on Wednesday. The plot thickens. Oh, not only did these Black Hebrew Israelites have guns, but they had a pipe bomb too. They could have pulled off an even more violent terroristic attack. We have to see what kind of links these Black Hebrew Israelites have to Islamic extremists like ISIS or Al-Qaeda. And don't be surprised, Ahchyam, when the media tries to spin it to make us look like we do have links to Islamic extremism, that we're worse, or that we're just a violent terroristic group in general. The majority of these people out here think we're Muslims anyway, and they definitely have enough ammunition to try to spin it to make us look like violent terrorists, especially from groups like ISUPK and HOI, or the House of Israel. HOI was a part of the Covington High and Native American protest at the Washington Monument, which was a fishy situation in itself, because come to find out that the main leader of the Native Americans was in a video a couple of years ago by Skrillex with an owl behind him, showing that the elites had their hands in the situation. And also HOI did a video where they went to a gun range and it had the hashtag pull-up boys. And in the video they said, we have to tap into Esau's blessing. We have to get not only our spirits right, but our aim right. And also ISUPK did a video with Vice where they went to a gun range and pretty much did the same thing. A lot of you Israelites are going to find out that a lot of these other groups are nothing more than plants, snakes, and agents set up to put more heat on this truth and lead a lot of you Israelites to your death. And just to show how even more convenient this whole situation is, there's a movie coming out called St. Paul. And as you can see, they have Yahushai's face on the poster, and the description reads, an ambitious college student infiltrates the black Israelites for his thesis paper, but as he befriends a devout member, he comes to suspect that a splinter faction is plotting a terrorist attack, point blank period. And the elder brother Kazak in the Mississippi camp did a video on this movie and showed that it's nothing more than that movie Asher, renamed, which was supposed to come out a couple of years ago. But I guess it wasn't time for Esau Edom to fully roll out his persecution agenda against us. The law enforcement official could not provide more details about Mr. Anderson's online posts or where they had been published. He said investigators were still reviewing that information. In this next paragraph, Esau Edom cuts himself. While the exact beliefs of the black Hebrew Israelites vary among the groups associated with the movement, followers generally believe that the 12 tribes of Israel defined in the Old Testament are different ethnic groups or nations. Wait, if we're the black Hebrew Israelites, then why does it say that the majority of followers generally believe that the 12 tribes are made up of different ethnic groups and not just so-called black people? And that's what we constantly tell you hard-headed people out here. The 12 tribes consist of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as the Israelite foreigners who will come looking like these different nations of people. And that so-called white or Edomite people are not among them. Another cut, because you have so-called white Israelites in these different camps. Their line goes back to Jacob. And a perfect example of that is this brother I know personally in the Hawaii camp right here. And what does he look like? A so-called white person, but he's an Israelite.
Shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ahchyam, Yahushai, Ahchyam, Wakakadashi.
Not the black Hebrew Israelites, just the Hebrew Israelites. And this is a beautiful image right here. It perfectly represents this truth. You've got a so-called Negro brother from the Southern Kingdom. You've got a so-called white brother who would be considered an Israelite foreigner. And then you've got a so-called Latino brother of the Northern Kingdom. You Edomites are finished. Your agenda's weak and you're weak. They mostly trade in anti-Semitism, said Heidi Bierich, the director of the intelligence project at the Southern Poverty Law Center. They view Jews as imposters. She added that the movement has not been known for committing mass acts of violence because that's not what we preach. We don't preach violence. We preach simply bringing out this word to the scattered sheep among the elect of Israel. We tell you that it's going to be Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai that's going to come and judge these heathen nations and enact that violence towards them. At a news conference on Wednesday, Mr. Group, I'm going to skip this part. A neighbor knew one of the suspects and saw a change. David N. Anderson spent more than a year in jail after pleading guilty to a weapons charge more than a decade ago, according to court records. He and Francine Graham met in 2017, according to a neighbor of Miss Graham's, who said he had lived above her since 2011. When Miss Graham moved into a housing development in Elizabeth, New Jersey, from the block in Harlem where she grew up, she was a polite, diligent, Hard-working home health aide, said the neighbor who did not wish to be named. She was nice. She had a caring nature. She was a stand-up person, he said. The so-called black woman can do no wrong. She was an upstanding citizen until she met that evil black man who was a black Hebrew Israelite. But after meeting Mr. Anderson, she changed, the neighbor said, describing her transformation as Jekyll and Hyde. She became an animal, a monster, a brute beast, a racist full of hate. Mr. Anderson seemed to move in with Miss Graham within days of meeting her. The neighbor described Mr. Anderson as a loser and someone who was not pleasant and kind of overpowering. And what are these people usually called GMS? The Bumalites. Oh, you've got no woman, you've got no job, and you're just full of anger and use the Bible as an excuse to vent your frustrations. And with whom he had squabbles. The neighbor said Mr. Anderson seemed both to prey on and control Miss Graham. David came out of nowhere and flipped her life around, he said, adding, "It was like we didn't know her anymore. She's a part of a cult now." Salakia. Sometime after Mr. Anderson moved in, the neighbor, who works from home, began having his workdays interrupted by noise from downstairs. Mr. Anderson repeatedly played audio recordings of a man the neighbor believed to be Louis Farrakhan, who doesn't even identify as a Hebrew Israelite. He's the leader of the Nation of Islam, and would sound like he himself was growing agitated. He shouted Bible verses by names and numbers, and then chanted out warped interpretations of what they meant. But if he was listening to Louis Farrakhan, wouldn't he be shouting out verses from the Quran? Just another example of them trying to link us to Islam. And Louis Farrakhan plays a big part on that Black Nationalist group page back on the SPLC's website. Right here under background. A leading example of a black nationalist group is the Nation of Islam, led by Louis Farrakhan. He has never backed away from the group's fundamental tenets, espoused by the group's previous leader, Elijah Muhammad, that white people are inherently evil and that they are blue-eyed devils. Farrakhan has described Catholic. That's pretty much it here. As well with the article, you get the point. As you, Ahchyam, can see, things are about to heat up. This persecution is quickly coming upon us. But hey, Ahchyam, you shouldn't expect anything less. Persecution was always a part of the job description when you put your hand to this plow, but you should count it as a blessing. It just goes to show that Yahweh by Ahchyam Yahushai is dealing with you and that you have a chance of being of that elect number. Yahushai went through it, the 12 apostles went through it, the prophets went through it, and you're going to go through it. Think about it like a video game. If you go somewhere where there are no enemies, you're playing the game wrong. But if you go somewhere where there are enemies, especially tough enemies, you're playing the game right. Now I'm going to go to John 15 and read verse 20 to 21. This is Yahushai speaking. "Remember the word that I said unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they have kept my saying, they will keep yours also. But all these things will they do unto you for my name's sake, because they know not him that sent me. For preaching in the name of Yahweh by Ahchyam Yahushai, rightly dividing these scriptures in 100% truth, which definitely gets under people's skin and cuts them to the heart, so much so that the elites of this world, these Rothschilds and these Rockefellers, these Gettys, these DuPonts, you name it, are moving against us to take this word off the internet and eventually come after the men of the Lord on the highways and byways. And some brothers will be martyrs in this truth, but hey, if that's your lot, endure until the end, because that's an automatic crown on your head." I'm going to close it out in Matthew 10 and 22. "And ye shall be hated, persecuted of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end, even unto death, if that's your lot, shall be saved." Getting beamed up on that chariot and saved from this nuclear destruction, getting a crown on your head from Yahushai, and being the first fruits in the kingdom of heaven, rebuilding this world, and putting your foot in the ass of these heathens, chiefly Esau, Edom. So with this video, I hope you sincere Ahchyam were edified. And as always, I'm going to say Abba Ball, Kwam Yasharala. Till next time, Shalom.